What if the person you were isn't the person you are? Imagine waking up at night, the same terrifying image seared into your mind. Not monsters, not shadows. Memories of a life you never lived. For one small child in Oklahoma, nightmares weren't about boogeymen. They were about visions of a different existence. Clutching his chest, eyes wide with fear, he whispered a secret no child at that age should know. I think I used to be somebody else. His words pulled those around him into a world where past and present blur. And halfway across the world, a toddler in India calmly told BBC journalists he was a murdered shop owner from Agra. He said his name was Suresh Verma, that he had a wife and children waiting for him at a radio shop in Sada Bazaar. And he showed them the bullet scars to prove it. For most of modern science, reincarnation was on the fringe, outside the scope of any serious inquiry. How could you test it? How do you measure a soul? But that all started to change in 1967, not in a monastery, but inside the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Virginia. The chairman of the department, a psychiatrist named Dr. Ian Stevenson, made a career-defining choice. He stepped down from his powerful role as a chairman to pour all his energy into a new research unit, the Division of Perceptual Studies, or DOPS. Its mission was audacious: to scientifically investigate phenomena that challenged the mainstream view of consciousness, including the idea that it might just survive physical death. For the next 40 years, Stevenson dedicated his life to this, traveling the world to investigate what he called the cases of the reincarnation type. He wasn't interested in vague feelings or hypnotic regressions. He focused on one specific thing: young individuals, usually between 2 and 6, who spontaneously started reporting memories of a past life. Stevenson and his team at DOPS have now collected and analyzed over 2,500 of these cases. For each one, they document the child's specific, verifiable statements before they try to find a match. They interview multiple witnesses, they check every possible historical record, death certificates, autopsy reports, news articles, to confirm or deny the child's claims. The goal was to rule out every possible explanation, fraud, fantasy, and especially cryptomnesia, the very real phenomena where a person unknowingly soaks up information from their surroundings, like a TV show or an overheard story, and later mistakes it for a genuine memory. One of the most startling patterns that emerge from all this data involves physical evidence. In around 30% of the cases, the child has a birthmark or a rare birth defect that precisely matches a fatal wound or a scar on the deceased person they claim to have been. These correlations have been verified with post-mortem reports, and they add a chilling physical layer to the children's words. After Stevenson's retirement, his work was continued by Dr. Jim B. Tucker, a child psychiatrist who leads the research at DOPS today. Dr. Tucker has brought a new focus on American cases, forcing us to confront a body of evidence that is as methodical as it is mysterious. And it's one of these American cases that stands out as perhaps the most compelling on record. Ryan Hammons of Oklahoma was by all accounts a typical little boy. But at age 4, his imagination took a dark, incredibly specific turn. He started having terrifying nightmares where he'd wake up screaming, clutching his chest, convinced his heart had exploded. Then came the statements. He would cry to his mother Cindy, begging her to take him home to Hollywood. He talked about a big house with a swimming pool, about meeting stars like Rita Hayworth, and about dancing on Broadway. He remembered working at an agency where people changed their names, and he recalled a life of luxury and world travel. His parents were devout Christians and found all of this talk of past life deeply unsettling. They prayed it was just a phase, but Ryan's distress was real. He felt homesick for a life he couldn't remember, but could never forget. As his mother put it, he was like a little old man who couldn't remember all the details of his life. Hoping to put the matter to rest, Cindy went to the library and brought home a stack of books on old Hollywood. As they flipped through the pages of a book about the 1930s film Night After Night, Ryan suddenly stopped her. He pointed to a man in a black and white photo. "That's me," he said. "That's who I was." That was the breakthrough. The man he pointed to was just an extra, but the photo was the first real clue. A documentary crew and eventually Dr. Jim Tucker got involved, and the puzzle pieces started to fall into place. It turned out that the man Ryan pointed to wasn't him, but another actor in the photo was someone he claimed to have known. The trail eventually led them to Marty Martyn, a former movie extra who became a powerful Hollywood agent and died in 1964. Marty Martyn's life matched Ryan's memories with staggering accuracy. Martyn had danced on Broadway, traveled the world, lived on a street with Roxbury in its name, and was known for his lavish parties. Ryan made 55 specific claims about Martyn's life, and Dr. Tucker's investigation verified the vast majority of them. The details were unbelievably precise. Ryan knew Martyn had 2 sisters. He knew Martyn was married 4 times. He remembered a black maid. He even recalled small personal details like Martyn's love for a brand of orange soda called True Aid, which hadn't been sold for decades. When Martyn's own surviving daughter was interviewed, she confirmed these details, things a little boy from Oklahoma would have absolutely no way of knowing. But the most incredible detail came down to Martyn's death. Ryan insisted he died at the age of 61. The problem was, Marty Martyn's official death certificate listed his death at 59. This looked like a clear case of mistaken identity. But Dr. Tucker, being the meticulous researcher, dug deeper. He cross-referenced census records and other public documents, and he found it. The death certificate was wrong. Marty Martyn was born in 1903 and not 1905, meaning that he was exactly 61 years old when he died of a cerebral hemorrhage in 1964, just as Ryan claimed. The little boy was right, and the official records were wrong. These stories take a lot of digging, and your support keeps this channel going. So if you're enjoying the deep dive, hit the like button, subscribe, and tap that bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. While the scientific deep dive is new, the belief itself is as old as civilization. The stories of children like Ryan Hammons are mind-bending, but they are a modern echo of an idea that has resonated throughout human history. Reincarnation isn't some new age fad. It's an ancient concept woven deep into our spiritual fabric. In Hinduism, one of the world's oldest religions, it's a central belief. The soul, or Atman, is seen as an eternal essence on a long journey through the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth called samsara. The cycle is governed by karma, the law of cause and effect, where one's life's actions determine the next one's circumstances. The ultimate goal isn't to be reborn forever, but to achieve moksha, or liberation from the cycle by gaining spiritual wisdom. Buddhism, which grew out of the same spiritual soil, offers a slightly different take. It also teaches rebirth, but it rejects the idea of a permanent, unchanging soul. With its doctrine of Anantman, or no self. Instead of a fixed soul hopping from one body to the next, Buddhism sees a continuous stream of consciousness, like one candle flame lighting another. This stream carries the karmic baggage of past actions forward, shaping a new life without a persistent I moving between them. The goal is the same: to end the cycle of suffering and achieve nirvana. And this belief isn't just in the East. Mystical schools within Judaism and Christianity have explored the idea. And long before any of this, ancient Greek philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato have spoken of metempsychosis, a transmigration of the soul. What this history shows is that the phenomena these kids are reporting today aren't happening in a vacuum. They are a modern expression of a question that has haunted and inspired us for millennia. Does our story end with our last breath? Or is that just an end to a chapter? If Ryan Hammons' case was remarkable for its Hollywood details, Titu Singh's story is chilling for its uncanny physical evidence and the violent ways he says he died. Born in the village of Badh, India, Titu was barely 3 when he began insisting he was Suresh Verma, a wealthy radio shop owner in Agra. He told his bewildered family to care for his wife Uma and their children, insisted he owned a shop in Sadar Bazaar, and scolded his parents for being poor. Nothing in this modern upbringing explained his yearning for a life of luxury or his detailed knowledge of Agra. Titu's older brother decided to investigate. In 1987, he found a video and radio shop in Agra called Suresh Radio, run by a widow named Uma, whose husband, Suresh Verma, had been shot in the head and killed in 1983. When Uma visited Badh, Titu ran to her, calling her my wife and peppering her with details of family outings only her deceased husband would know. Now taken to Agra, he correctly identified Suresh's children among a crowd of kids and pointed out details of changes made to the shop after Suresh's death. The physical evidence was even more startling. Autopsy reports of Suresh Verma showed he died from a gunshot wound to the right temple, with the exit wound on the opposite side of his head. When Titu's hair was shaved, a TV crew filmed a small, round birthmark exactly on the point of entry, and a second birthmark on the back of his skull, where the bullet exited. These marks matched the size and location of Suresh's fatal injuries. Titu also showed abilities beyond his years. He could operate a car's tape deck and drive short distances. Skills Suresh had, but Titu had never been taught. Because of police involvement and televised evidence, many researchers consider Titu's case one of the best documented modern reincarnation stories. The BBC found it so compelling that they featured it in a 1990 episode of its news program 40 Minutes, highlighting the birthmark evidence and Titu's detailed recognition of Suresh's family. Like other cases, it raises unsettling questions. How could a toddler know so much about a dead man's life? And could the soul carry physical scars into a new body? Now, for all the compelling and emotional details in these cases, it is vital to approach them with healthy skepticism. These stories are extraordinary, And science demands extraordinary evidence. But more than that, it demands a plausible mechanism. And that's the biggest hurdle for reincarnation research. There is no scientifically accepted way to explain how a personality, memories, or consciousness could survive death and transfer to a new brain. Skeptics rightly point to a few other explanations. The most common is cryptomnesia, the idea that these kids aren't recalling past lives, but they are piecing together forgotten information that is picked up through normal means. A documentary, a conversation between adults, pictures in a book. A young, absorbent mind could build a complex story from these fragments, and without realizing it. Another major criticism is the role of parental or cultural influences. Many of the cases Dobbs has studied come from cultures where reincarnation is a common belief. Critics argue this creates a confirmation bias, where parents might unintentionally ask leading questions or reward statements that fit a narrative. And finally, there's the argument for materialism, the position that consciousness is simply a product of the brain. From this view, when the brain dies, consciousness just stops. So reincarnation is impossible by definition, meaning there must be another explanation, even if we haven't found it yet. Researchers like Dr. Tucker know these criticisms well. They argue that while cryptomnesia might explain vague claims, it strains belief when you have the huge number of specific, obscure, and verified details in the strongest cases. How could a boy in Oklahoma not only know about a Hollywood agent, but also correct his official death certificate? And while parental influence is a concern, many of the strongest cases, like Titu Singh, come from families who were initially skeptical of the idea. To try and bridge the gap, some have proposed speculative ideas. Dr. Stevenson wondered if there was a non-physical carrier of memories he called psychophore. Dr. Tucker, on the other hand, points to the weirdness of quantum physics, where consciousness seems to interact with the physical world, suggesting it might be more fundamental than matter itself. But for now, these are just ideas, attempts to map a territory that is still largely unknown. We've looked at a mystery as old as time and as current as the work being done today. We've seen how dedicated scientists have spent decades documenting thousands of cases of children who seem to have remembered lives they've never lived. We've looked at an incredible story of Hammons, who remembered the life of a Hollywood agent with stunning accuracy, and Titu Singh, whose birthmarks and memories match the violent death of Suresh Verma. We've also listened to the skeptical voices that remind us that the gap between these experiences and a scientific explanation is still very wide. The evidence is powerful and for many people incredibly persuasive, but it is not yet definitive proof. The mystery remains, so we are left standing at the edge of the deepest question we can ask. Is consciousness a temporary electrical storm in your brain, destined to be extinguished forever? Or is it something more fundamental, more endearing? A traveler on a journey far grander than we can comprehend. Moving from one life to the next, a single soul in many bodies. These stories raise more questions than answers, and that's exactly the kind of journey we are here for. I'd like to know what you think. Are these real memories from another life? Or is there a more earthly explanation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we read them all. And sometimes they inspire future episodes. And if you found something in this story that made you pause, wonder, or just feel a little more connected to the mystery of being alive, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Because here on the Mann Show, we're not just telling stories, we're seeking something deeper. Thanks for being part of the search.